My landlord knocked on my door at 2 a.m. and told me to pack a bag and leave immediately. When I laughed it off, he showed me his phone. It was a live camera feed of my bedroom, right now. I told him I didn't have any cameras installed. He looked me dead in the eye and whispered, "I know, but someone's been watching you for weeks." My name is Vanessa Blake. I'm 26, a freelance graphic designer, and I live alone in Portland, Oregon. This is the story of how my landlord saved my life and how I discovered that my own apartment had been turned into a prison I didn't even know I was trapped in. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. You're going to want to hear this. 6 months ago, I moved into a loft apartment in Portland's Pearl District. It was right after I ended a 3-year relationship with my boyfriend, Tyler. The breakup was messy. Tyler didn't want it to end, and honestly, he made the whole thing way harder than it needed to be. He kept showing up at my old place unannounced, calling me at all hours, sending long emails about how we were meant to be together. It got to the point where I knew I needed a fresh start somewhere he couldn't just drop by whenever he felt like it. So I started apartment hunting, and that's when I found the loft. High ceilings, exposed brick walls, these huge windows that let in so much natural light. It was perfect. And the best part? The rent was $1,200 a month. In that neighborhood, places like that usually go for $1,600 or more. I couldn't believe my luck. When I asked the landlord, Mr. Kenneth Vaughn, why the rent was so low, he just shrugged and said the previous tenant had left suddenly, and he wanted someone reliable who would take care of the place. He seemed nice enough, quiet, maybe in his late 50s, the kind of guy who keeps to himself but responds to maintenance requests within a day. I'd only met him twice since moving in, once when I signed the lease, and once when my kitchen sink started leaking and he came to fix it. I loved that apartment from day one. I set up my workspace in one corner with my 2 computer monitors and all my design equipment. My bed was in another corner near the big windows. I decorated the whole place with plants, string lights, and furniture I found at thrift stores. It felt like mine. It felt safe. For the first time in months, I could breathe without worrying about Tyler showing up. My days fell into a comfortable routine. I'd wake up around 8, make coffee, and start working on design projects for my clients. Most of my work is creating logos and websites for small businesses. I work from home almost every day, which I love because I can set my own hours and work in my pajamas if I want to. My best friend since college, Sienna, lives across town and always complains that I don't get out enough. "You need to actually leave your apartment sometimes," she'd tell me over the phone. "You're becoming a hermit." "I'm not a hermit. I'm focused," I'd argue back, but she was probably right. I spent most of my time alone in that loft, working, watching TV, living my quiet little life. My older brother Marcus lives up in Seattle. He's 31, works in finance, and calls me every single Sunday like clockwork. Most of the time, he lectures me about working too hard or not eating properly, or something else big brothers worry about. Our mom died when I was 19 from cancer, and I think Marcus has felt responsible for me ever since. Our dad remarried 2 years ago and moved to Arizona with his new wife, Linda. We talk maybe once a month, usually just surface-level stuff about the weather and how work is going. So it was just me in that apartment most of the time. Me, my plants, my work, and the peace and quiet I'd been craving since the breakup. Everything seemed normal. Everything seemed fine. But looking back now, I realized things hadn't been fine for weeks. I just didn't want to see it. About a month ago, I started noticing small things that felt off. I'd leave my laptop at a certain angle on my desk, and when I came back from the bathroom, it would be positioned slightly differently. Not much, just a few degrees. I told myself I was remembering wrong. Then I started noticing drawers I was sure I'd closed would be open, just a crack. My body wash in the shower seemed to be running out faster than it should have been. One morning I found my bedroom window open even though I always kept it locked. Each time something like this happened, I'd feel this weird tightness in my chest, like something was wrong, but I couldn't figure out what. I'd look around the apartment, check the locks, and find nothing out of place. So I convinced myself I was just being paranoid, working too much, not sleeping enough, maybe still a little jumpy from dealing with Tyler's behavior after the breakup. Sienna noticed I seemed anxious when we met for lunch one day. "You okay?" You keep looking around like you're expecting something bad to happen. I'm fine, I told her. Just tired. I've been taking on too many projects. But I wasn't fine. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't trust myself enough to investigate further. I wish I had. The apartment itself was one big open space except for the bathroom, which was the only separate room. The layout meant I could see almost everything from anywhere in the loft. My bed, my workspace, the kitchen area. It was all visible. I liked that openness at first. It made the place feel bigger. Now I realized that openness meant there was nowhere to hide, nowhere that wasn't exposed. The building was quiet most of the time. There were only 6 units total, and I barely saw my neighbors. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps in the hallway or a door closing, but mostly it felt like I lived alone in the whole building. Mr. Vaughn owned 3 of the units and lived somewhere else in the city. Like I said, I almost never saw him. That Thursday night, I was up, late working on a logo redesign for a coffee shop client. The deadline was Friday morning, and I was running behind. I had my headphones on, music playing, totally focused on getting the colors just right. I was wearing my usual work-from-home outfit, an oversized t-shirt from college and pajama shorts. My hair was in a messy bun, and I had a cup of coffee next to my keyboard that had gone cold hours ago. It was peaceful, normal, just another late night of work in my safe little apartment. I had no idea that my entire world was about to fall apart. I had no idea that someone had been watching my every move for the past 6 weeks. And I definitely had no idea that in less than 10 minutes, my landlord would be pounding on my door with information that would make me question everything I thought I knew about my home and my safety. The clock on my computer screen showed 2:14 a.m. when I finally saved my work and stretched my arms over my head. I was thinking about going to bed, maybe watching one episode of a show first to wind down. That's when I heard it. Loud, urgent pounding on my door that made me jump so hard I knocked over my cold coffee. The mug shattered on the floor, coffee spreading across the hardwood. My heart was racing as I pulled off my headphones. Nobody knocks on your door at 2 a.m. unless something is seriously, terribly wrong. Fire. Emergency. Someone hurt. My mind ran through all the possibilities as I carefully stepped over the broken mug and walked toward the door. I looked through the peephole and saw Mr. Vaughn standing in the hallway. But he didn't look like the calm, quiet landlord I'd met before. He looked terrified. His face was pale, his eyes were wide, and he kept glancing back over his shoulder like he thought someone might be following him. I'd never seen him like this. I'd never seen him show any emotion at all, actually. I opened the door, but kept the chain lock attached. "Mr. Vaughn, what's going on? Is there a fire or something?" He was breathing hard, like he'd just run up the stairs, even though my apartment was on the ground floor. "Vanessa, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Pack a bag with whatever you need, clothes, your wallet, your phone charger, and then leave this apartment right now. Don't ask me why. Just trust me and go." I actually laughed because the whole situation felt so bizarre and unreal. This quiet, reserved man was at my door at 2 a.m., telling me to pack up and leave like the building was about to explode. "What? Mr. Vaughn, it's 2 in the morning. I'm not packing anything. What are you talking about? You're scaring me." He looked up and down the hallway again, then back at me. His hands were shaking. "Please, Vanessa, I'm completely serious. You are not safe in this apartment. You need to leave right now." "Okay, you need to tell me what's happening. If there's a gas leak or a structural problem or something wrong with the building, just say that. I'm not leaving without knowing why." That's when he pulled his phone out of his pocket. His hand was trembling so badly he almost dropped it. "I'm going to show you something, and I need you to stay calm when you see it. Can you do that?" I nodded, confused and increasingly frightened. He turned his phone screen toward me, and everything stopped. My brain stopped. My heart stopped. Time itself seemed to stop, because what I was seeing didn't make any sense. It couldn't be real. On his phone screen was a live video feed. I could see a room I recognized immediately because I was standing in it. My bedroom. The view showed my bed with the unmade sheets, my nightstand with the lamp, and the book I'd been reading, the chair in the corner with my clothes draped over it from earlier. and in the corner of the screen was a timestamp that read 2:17 a.m. with the words "Live Feed" in red letters. My voice came out as barely a whisper. What is this? Is this some kind of joke? I looked from the phone screen to Mr. Vaughn's face, searching for any sign that this was a prank or a mistake or anything other than what it appeared to be. But his expression told me everything I needed to know. This was real. Someone had a camera in my bedroom, and it was streaming live right now. I don't have cameras in my apartment, I said, my voice getting louder and more panicked. I never installed any cameras. This doesn't make any sense. Where did you get this? My hands started shaking as the reality of what I was seeing began to sink in. That was my private space, my bedroom, the place where I changed clothes, where I slept, where I cried on the phone to Sienna about my problems. Someone had been watching all of it. Mr. Vaughn stepped closer to the door, his voice urgent but quiet. I know you didn't install them, Vanessa, but someone else did. Someone has been watching you, and I need you to understand how serious this is. He glanced at his phone screen, then back at me. About 20 minutes ago, I got an anonymous email. No name, no return address, just a link and a message that said, "Thought the landlord should know what's happening in his building." When I clicked the link, it took me to a website with 3 different camera feeds. 3, Vanessa. 1 from your bedroom, 1 from your bathroom, and 1 showing your workspace and front door. The hallway started spinning. I grabbed onto the door frame to keep myself upright. 3 cameras. Someone had put 3 cameras in my apartment and had been watching me in my most private moments. The bathroom. I thought about every shower I'd taken, every time I'd gotten dressed, every vulnerable moment I'd had in what I thought was the privacy of my own home. I felt like I was going to be sick. Who? I managed to choke out. Who's been watching me? How long has this been going on? My mind was racing through everyone I knew, every maintenance person who'd been in the apartment, every delivery person, trying to figure out who could have done this and when they had the opportunity. Mr. Vaughn's face was grim. The email said the cameras have been active for 6 weeks. Whoever sent me this information also mentioned that they've been downloading and saving all the footage. He paused, letting that sink in. Vanessa, someone out there has 6 weeks of recordings of your private life. 6 weeks. That was almost half the time I'd been living here. My knees went weak, and I had to lean against the wall. All those times I felt like something was off, like things were out of place. I'd been right. My instincts had been screaming at me that something was wrong, but I'd ignored them. I'd talked myself out of trusting my own gut because I didn't want to seem paranoid or crazy. "Did you call the police?" I asked, tears starting to stream down my face. This couldn't be happening. This was the kind of thing you saw on crime shows, not something that happened to real people in real life. "Not yet," Mr. Vaughn said. "I came straight here because I was terrified that whoever is watching might see police cars pull up and panic, maybe destroy evidence, or worse, do something to you." The email came from an address that looked completely random, probably untraceable. Whoever did this knows what they're doing. They're tech savvy, and they're careful. I looked past him into my apartment, and suddenly, everything looked different. The space that had felt like home 10 minutes ago now felt like a trap. Every corner could be hiding something. Every object could have a camera inside it. The smoke detector above my bed, the clock on the wall, the air vent in the bathroom. Any of them could be watching me right now. "How is this possible?" I said, more to myself than to Mr. Vaughn. "How did someone get in here to install cameras without me knowing? I'm home almost every single day. I work from home. When would they have had time?" Mr. Vaughn shook his head slowly. "I don't know. But Vanessa, there's something else you need to know. The woman who lived here before you, her name was Bethany Chen. She broke her lease 6 months ago and moved out in the middle of the night. Didn't give any notice, didn't ask for her security deposit back, just packed her stuff and left. I tried calling her to find out what happened, but her phone was disconnected. I always thought it was strange, but I figured maybe she had a family emergency or something. The implication hit me like a physical blow. You think she found cameras too? You think whoever did this has been targeting your tenants?" "I don't know what to think," Mr. Vaughn admitted. "But yes, That's exactly what I'm worried about. What if this has been going on longer than 6 weeks? What if they watched her too, and that's why she ran? My mind went to the one person I knew who would be capable of something this invasive, this controlling, this sick. Tyler. My ex-boyfriend who couldn't accept that our relationship was over. Tyler, who worked in IT and definitely had the technical skills to set up hidden cameras and remote access. Tyler, who had kept showing up at my old apartment and calling me obsessively until I moved here to get away from him. But how would he even know where I lived now? I'd been so careful not to tell him my new address. Then I remembered something that made my blood run cold. 7 months ago, when I first started looking for apartments, Tyler had been helpful. Too helpful. He'd sent me a list of places to check out, including this building. He'd written, "Great landlord, good area, you'd love it." At the time, I thought he was just trying to be supportive despite the breakup. Now I realized he might have been setting a trap. "I think I know who did this," I said quietly, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and rage. "My ex-boyfriend, Tyler. He recommended this apartment to me. What if he already knew about the cameras or installed them himself before I even moved in?" Mr. Vaughn's eyes widened. How would he get access to the building to install anything? I'm the only one with keys to the units. That's when another memory surfaced, one I'd completely forgotten about. When I came to view the apartment before signing the lease, you weren't here. Someone else showed me around. He said he was building maintenance, said his name was Dave, tall guy, blonde hair, late 20s. He had keys and everything. The color drained from Mr. Vaughn's face. "Vanessa, I don't have building maintenance. I don't have anyone named Dave working for me. I handle all the maintenance myself, or I hire specific contractors for big jobs, and I'm always here when they work." The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. Tyler had somehow gotten keys to the building, maybe copied them from somewhere or picked the locks. He'd posed as maintenance to show me the apartment, making sure I'd love it and want to rent it. Then, before I moved in, he'd installed the cameras. He'd planned the whole thing, orchestrated everything so he could keep watching me even after I left him. The apartment that was supposed to be my fresh start, my escape from his controlling behavior, had been compromised from the very beginning. Something shifted inside me in that moment. The fear and shock I'd been feeling transformed into pure rage. This apartment was supposed to be mine, my safe space, my escape from Tyler's obsessive, controlling behavior, and he'd violated that before I'd even unpacked my first box. "We need to find these cameras right now," I said, my voice coming out harder and steadier than I expected. "I need to see them with my own eyes. I need to know exactly where they are and how long they've been there." Mr. Vaughn nodded, but held up a hand in caution. "We should be careful about how we do this. Whoever's running these feeds might be monitoring more than just video. There could be audio too. If they hear us talking about finding the cameras, they might try to delete evidence or do something else. We need to be smart about this." I looked back into my apartment, my sanctuary that had been turned into a fishbowl without my knowledge. "Then let's not give them a warning. Let's just find them." I unhooked the chain lock and opened the door fully, letting Mr. Vaughn inside. My hands were still shaking, but now it was from anger more than fear. I wanted to rip those cameras out of the walls with my bare hands. Mr. Vaughn pulled up the live feed on his phone again. "Okay, let's match the camera angles to figure out where they're positioned. The bedroom camera looks like it's shooting from up high, near the ceiling." We both walked into my bedroom area, and I felt exposed in a way I'd never felt before. Someone was watching us right now, watching me in my pajamas, watching Mr. Vaughn as he tried to help me. The violation of it made my skin crawl. I stood in the middle of the room and looked up, following the angle from the video feed on Mr. Vaughn's phone. The camera had a clear view of my bed, my nightstand, and the window. It had to be positioned somewhere with a direct line of sight to all of that. My eyes scanned the ceiling, looking at every fixture, every corner, every possible hiding spot. The light fixture seemed too obvious. The corner molding was too narrow. Then I saw it. The smoke detector. It was mounted on the ceiling directly above my bed, exactly where a smoke detector should be. It looked completely normal and legitimate, but when I dragged my desk chair over and climbed up to examine it more closely, My stomach turned. There, in what should have been a solid piece of plastic, was a tiny glass lens, so small you'd never notice it unless you were looking for it. The smoke detector was real and functional, but someone had modified it to hide a camera inside. "It's in the smoke detector," I said, my voice hollow and distant. "It's been right above my bed this entire time, watching me sleep, watching me change, watching everything." I climbed down from the chair because my legs felt too weak to stand on it anymore. How many nights had I slept directly under that thing, completely unaware that my most private moments were being recorded and watched by someone who had no right to see them? Mr. Vaughn made a note on his phone. "Don't touch it. We need to leave it as evidence for the police. Let's find the other two." We moved to the bathroom next, and I felt sick knowing what this camera must have captured. The feed on Mr. Vaughn's phone showed a view from above, angled down toward the shower and the area where I got dressed every morning. I looked up at the ventilation fan in the ceiling, the kind that turns on automatically when the bathroom gets humid. I pulled the chair in from the bedroom and climbed up again. The vent cover had small slats that were supposed to let air through, but when I looked closely, one of the slats wasn't a slat at all. It was another camera lens, positioned perfectly to see the entire bathroom. My hands balled into fists. Every shower I'd taken, every time I'd gotten ready in the morning, every vulnerable private moment, all of it recorded. "The ventilation fan," I confirmed, climbing down. I couldn't look at it anymore. We found the third camera in the main living space, hidden inside a round wall clock that hung near my workspace. I'd always assumed that clock came with the apartment because it matched the industrial style of the exposed brick. I'd never thought to question it. The camera inside had a perfect view of my desk, my computer screens, and the front door. It could see everyone who came and went. It could see what I was working on. It could probably even read my computer screen if the angle was right. "That's all three," Mr. Vaughn said quietly, looking at his phone to confirm. "Bedroom, bathroom, and workspace. Whoever did this wanted complete coverage of your life." I stood in the middle of my apartment, looking at these three ordinary objects that had been weaponized against me. A smoke detector, a ventilation fan, a wall clock, things that were supposed to be helpful and normal, turned into tools of surveillance. "I need to know for sure it was Tyler," I said. "I need proof before we call the police." I walked to my desk and opened my laptop, pulling up my email. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I searched for Tyler's name. There were dozens of emails from him, most from right after the breakup, pleading messages about how we belonged together, angry messages accusing me of giving up too easily. But then I found the one I was looking for, dated 7 months ago, right when I'd started apartment hunting. The subject line read, "Apartment leads for you," and the message included a list of 5 buildings in Portland with available units. The third one on the list was this exact address. Tyler had written, "This one looks perfect for you. Great landlord, safe neighborhood, good natural light, the kind of place you've always wanted. Let me know if you want me to go check it out with you." I'd written back thanking him, but saying I wanted to look at places on my own. At the time, I thought I was being independent and setting healthy boundaries. Now I realized I'd dodged having him physically come with me, but he'd still gotten exactly what he wanted. He'd steered me right into a trap he'd already set. "Here," I said, turning the laptop toward Mr. Vaughn. He recommended this building specifically. He knew I'd love it because he knows my taste. He probably installed the cameras before I even came to view it, then posed as building maintenance to make sure I saw the apartment, and fell in love with it. Mr. Vaughn read the email, his jaw tightening. "This is premeditated. This isn't some impulsive act. He planned this whole thing." He pulled out his phone. "We need to call the police right now. This is beyond just hidden cameras. This is stalking, harassment, and who knows what else." But I stopped him. "Wait, before we call, I need to contact someone." I grabbed my phone, my hands steadier now that I had a clear target for my anger. I scrolled to my brother Marcus's number and hit call. It rang 4 times before he answered, his voice groggy and confused. "Nessa, what's wrong? It's almost 3 in the morning." The moment I heard his voice, something broke inside me. All the strength I'd been holding on to crumbled, and I started crying. "Marcus, Something really bad happened. I need you." He was instantly alert. "What happened? Are you hurt? Where are you?" Through my tears, I told him everything. The cameras, Tyler, the past 6 weeks of being watched without knowing it. Marcus was silent for a long moment after I finished, and when he finally spoke, his voice was shaking with rage. "I'm getting in my car right now. I'll be there in 3 hours. Do not go anywhere alone. Do not let that psychopath anywhere near you. I'm calling Dad too." "No, don't wake Dad. There's nothing he can do from Arizona. He's your father, Vanessa. He needs to know." Marcus's voice softened slightly. "Are you safe right now? Is someone with you?" "My landlord is here, Mr. Vaughn. He's the one who found out about the cameras and warned me. We're about to call the police." "Good. Call them right now. And Nessa, I'm so sorry this happened to you. We're going to make sure Tyler pays for this." After I hung up with Marcus, Mr. Vaughn dialed 911. His voice was calm and clear as he explained the situation to the dispatcher. "I'm a landlord and I've discovered illegal surveillance equipment in one of my tenants' apartments. Hidden cameras. We believe we know who installed them. Yes, the tenant is here with me now and she's safe. We haven't touched any of the equipment because we know it's evidence." The dispatcher said police would arrive within 15 minutes and instructed us to wait outside the apartment if we felt unsafe. But I didn't want to leave. This was my home, or at least it was supposed to be. I wasn't going to let Tyler chase me out of another place I loved. 2 police officers arrived in less than 12 minutes. I watched through my window as their patrol car pulled up outside, the red and blue lights painting the brick walls of the building. Officer Lisa Chen was first through the door, a woman in her mid-30s with sharp eyes that took in everything about the apartment in seconds. Behind her was Officer Robert Mills, an older man with gray hair and a kind face that somehow made me feel like everything might actually be okay. "I'm Officer Chen. This is Officer Mills. You must be Vanessa Blake?" I nodded, wrapping my arms around myself. Even though I was standing in my own apartment, I felt completely exposed. "And you're the landlord who reported this?" she asked, turning to Mr. Vaughn. He confirmed his identity and handed her his phone with the camera feeds still pulled up. Officer Chen's expression darkened as she looked at the screen. "How many cameras did you find?" she asked. Mr. Vaughn told her about all. 3, their locations, and what they captured. Officer Mills was already walking through the apartment, looking up at the smoke detector, the bathroom vent, and the wall clock without touching any of them. He pulled out his own phone and started taking photographs from different angles. I sat down on my couch because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Officer Chen sat across from me, her notepad out. "Vanessa, I need you to walk me through everything. Start from the beginning and tell me how you discovered these cameras." So I did. I told her about Mr. Vaughn knocking on my door at 2 a.m., about the anonymous email he received, about finding each camera. Then I told her about Tyler. His full name is Tyler Morrison. He's 28, lives in Portland, works in IT at a tech company downtown. We dated for 3 years and broke up 6 months ago. He didn't take it well. He kept showing up at my old apartment, calling me constantly, sending long emails about how we were meant to be together. That's why I moved here, to get away from him. But he's the one who recommended this building to me. I pulled up the email on my laptop and showed it to her. Officer Chen read it carefully, then looked at me with an expression that was equal parts sympathy and anger. "And you said when you first came to view this apartment, someone claiming to be building maintenance showed you around." "Yes, he said his name was Dave. Tall, blonde hair, probably late 20s. He had keys to the unit." I looked at Mr. Vaughn. "But Mr. Vaughn says he doesn't employ anyone named Dave, and he's the only one who should have keys." Officer Mills joined us, having finished photographing the cameras. "We're going to need a forensics team to come remove these devices as evidence, but I want to document everything first. Ms. Blake, do you have any photos of your ex-boyfriend?" I pulled up Tyler's Facebook profile on my phone, my hands shaking as I scrolled to a recent photo. Officer Mills looked at it, then showed it to Officer Chen. "That could definitely be the same person who posed as maintenance," I said. "Tyler's about 6'1", he has blonde hair, and he would have been the right age 7 months ago when I viewed the apartment." Officer Chen made several notes, then looked up at me. "Here's what's going to happen. We're going to get a warrant to search Tyler Morrison's residence and seize his electronic devices. Based on what you've told us and the evidence here, we have probable cause for illegal surveillance, stalking, and potentially identity fraud for posing as building maintenance. This is serious, Vanessa. These are felony charges. The word felony made it all feel suddenly real. This wasn't just Tyler being a bad ex-boyfriend. This was criminal. Officer Mills called for the forensics team while Officer Chen continued taking my statement. She asked about Tyler's job, his address, whether he had a history of this kind of behavior with other girlfriends. I told her I didn't know, that I'd been his first serious relationship as far as I knew. Did you ever give him a key to this apartment? Officer Chen asked. I shook my head firmly. Did he ever visit you here? Again, no. I'd made sure Tyler never knew my new address. I'd been so careful about that, or at least I thought I had been. Have you noticed him following you or showing up in places where you spend time? I thought about it. Not that I've seen, but about a month ago I started feeling like things in my apartment were off, like my laptop would be in a slightly different position than I left it, or drawers would be open when I was sure I'd closed them. My body wash seemed to run out too fast. Little things that made me feel paranoid. Officer Chen and Officer Mills exchanged a look. Ms. Blake, those aren't little things. Those are signs that someone may have been entering your apartment when you weren't home, or even when you were asleep. The cameras would have let them know your schedule when it was safe to come in. My blood turned to ice. You think Tyler has been coming into my apartment? Actually coming inside? The thought of him standing over my bed while I slept, going through my things, touching my belongings, it made me want to scream. It's a possibility we need to investigate, Officer Mills said gently. We'll dust for fingerprints and see if we can find any evidence of unauthorized entry. The forensics team arrived about 20 minutes later, 3 people in uniforms carrying equipment cases. They got to work immediately, carefully removing the camera from the smoke detector first. One of them, a woman named Diana, explained what they were doing as they worked. These are pretty sophisticated devices, she said, examining the smoke detector camera. Not something you can just buy at a regular electronics store. Whoever installed these knew what they were doing. We'll be able to pull data from them to see how long they've been active and whether the footage was being stored locally or transmitted to a remote server. The email said they'd been active for 6 weeks and that someone had been downloading and saving the footage, Mr. Vaughn offered. Diana nodded grimly. Then we'll work with our cybercrime unit to try to trace where that data was being sent and stored. While the forensics team worked, Officer Chen's phone rang. She stepped into the hallway to take the call, and when she came back, her expression was serious. That was my sergeant. We've got a judge standing by to issue the warrant for Tyler Morrison's residence. We're going to execute it within the hour. She looked at me. Vanessa, I want you to understand that this might take some time. We need to collect all the evidence, build a solid case. But based on what we're seeing here, I'm confident we'll be able to make an arrest. How long? I asked. How long before he can't do this to anyone else? Officer Chen sat down next to me. If we find what I think we're going to find at his apartment, he'll be arrested tonight. But the legal process, the trial, that could take months. What I can tell you is that we take these cases very seriously. Technology-facilitated stalking is a growing problem, and we've been trained specifically on how to handle it. At 4:37 a.m., the forensics team finished removing all 3 cameras and collecting other evidence from my apartment. They dusted for fingerprints on my door handles, window locks, and other surfaces. They'd taken samples from my bathroom and bedroom. My apartment looked like a crime scene because that's exactly what it was. Diana gave me her card and told me they'd be in touch with their findings. After they left, Officer Chen pulled me aside. Vanessa, I don't think you should stay here tonight. Is there somewhere else you can go? A friend's place or a hotel? I thought about calling Sienna, but it was almost 5 in the morning and I couldn't bring myself to wake her with this nightmare. There's a hotel a few blocks away, I said quietly. I can go there. Mr. Vaughn spoke up. Actually, I have another vacant unit in a different building across town. It's furnished and ready to move into. You can stay there tonight, and we can talk tomorrow about breaking your lease here with no penalty. You shouldn't have to pay for a place that was violated like this. I wanted to cry at his kindness, but I was too exhausted for tears. Officer Chen nodded approvingly. That's a good solution. Officer Mills and I are heading to Tyler Morrison's apartment now to execute the warrant. We'll contact you as soon as we have an update. She paused, then added, You did the right thing by reporting this immediately. A lot of victims don't, out of fear or shame or disbelief, but you spoke up, and that's going to help us stop him. At 6:47 a.m., my phone rang. I was at Mr. Vaughn's other property, sitting on an unfamiliar couch in an unfamiliar apartment, still wearing my pajamas from the night before. It was Officer Chen. Vanessa, we executed the warrant at Tyler Morrison's residence. I need to tell you what we found, and it's going to be difficult to hear. I braced myself. We found external hard drives containing hundreds of hours of footage from your apartment. Video files organized by date and labeled by activity. Screenshots he'd saved. Logs showing he accessed the camera feeds multiple times every single day, sometimes for hours at a time. I felt bile rise in my throat. How many hours? Officer Chen was quiet for a moment. Over 300 hours of footage total. But Vanessa, there's more. We found evidence he'd done this to at least 2 other women, ex-girlfriends from before he met you. Similar setups, similar surveillance patterns. We're in the process of contacting them now. 2 other women. Tyler had turned stalking and surveillance into a pattern, a hobby, maybe even an addiction. He's been arrested and charged with multiple felony counts, including illegal surveillance, stalking, invasion of privacy, and computer crimes. He's not getting bail. The judge agreed he's a danger to the community and a flight risk. I didn't spend another night in that loft apartment. I couldn't. Even though the cameras were gone and Tyler was in custody, the space felt poisoned. Every corner reminded me of what had happened, of how I'd been watched and violated for 6 weeks without knowing. Mr. Vaughn let me break my lease immediately with no penalty and moved me into his vacant unit across town that same week. Marcus drove down from Seattle and helped me pack everything. He didn't say much while we worked, but I could see the anger in his eyes every time he looked at the empty spots where those cameras had been. The new apartment was smaller, but it felt safer. Different building, different neighborhood, no history of trauma attached to the walls. The first thing I did was hire a professional to sweep the entire place for hidden devices. They found nothing, but I still checked the smoke detectors, the vents, and every electronic device myself. I probably always will. Some fears don't just disappear because the immediate threat is gone. Sienna came over the day after I moved in, bringing food and wine and just sitting with me while I tried to process everything. I can't believe this happened to you, she kept saying, shaking her head. Tyler always seemed controlling, but this is beyond anything I imagined he was capable of. I told her about the other 2 women, the ones the police had contacted. Both had dated Tyler years before me. Both had experienced the same thing. Hidden cameras in their apartments, months of surveillance, their most private moments recorded and stored on his hard drives like some kind of sick collection. Why didn't they report it? Sienna asked. I shrugged, understanding completely, even though I'd never met them. Probably the same reasons anyone doesn't report. Fear that no one would believe them. Shame about what happened. Not wanting to relive the trauma. The police said one of them had moved to a different state just to get away from him, and the other had gotten a restraining order, but never pursued criminal charges because she didn't have proof. The legal process moved slowly, like Officer Chen had warned me it would. Tyler's trial was set for 4 months later. In that time, I had to give depositions, review evidence, and relive the worst violation of my life over and over again in front of lawyers and judges and court reporters. The district attorney assigned to the case, a woman named Patricia Flores, was kind but direct. She told me the evidence was overwhelming. The cameras, the hard drives, the detailed logs of when Tyler accessed the feeds. The prosecution even found receipts showing Tyler had purchased the surveillance equipment online using his own credit card. He's going to prison, Patricia told me during one of our meetings. The only question is, for how long? With 3 victims and the amount of evidence we have, I'm pushing for the maximum sentence. The thought of Tyler in prison should have made me feel better, but mostly I just felt empty. Nothing could undo what he'd done. Nothing could give me back those 6 weeks of privacy he'd stolen from me. Marcus stayed with me for 2 weeks after everything happened, working remotely from my new apartment and barely letting me out of his sight. One night over takeout, he asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Are you going to be okay? Really okay?" I thought about it for a long time before answering. "I don't know. Right now, everything feels broken. I second-guess everything. I check for cameras constantly. I can't sleep without checking all the locks 3 times. But I'm in therapy now, and I'm trying. That's all I can do." The trial finally happened in early June. I sat in the courtroom with Marcus on one side and Sienna on the other, while the prosecutor presented the evidence. The hard drives, the camera footage, Tyler's search history showing he'd researched how to hide surveillance equipment and how to avoid detection. The other 2 victims testified as well, telling their own stories of how Tyler had invaded their privacy and made them feel unsafe in their own homes. Tyler's lawyer tried to argue that his client had mental health issues and needed treatment, not prison. But when Patricia Flores played excerpts of the videos Tyler had saved, showing how he'd categorized and labeled them like they were his personal property, the judge's expression hardened. Those videos showed me sleeping, changing clothes, crying on the phone to friends, living my private life, completely unaware I was being watched. The judge called it one of the most disturbing cases of stalking and invasion of privacy she'd seen in her 20 years on the bench. Tyler was sentenced to 8 years in prison with no possibility of parole for the first 4 years. As they let him out of the courtroom, he looked at me for the first time since the trial began. I'd been terrified of that moment, scared that seeing his face would break me. But when our eyes met, all I felt was relief. He looked smaller somehow, less powerful, just a sad, pathetic man who'd thrown away his entire life because he couldn't let go of control. Outside the courthouse, Patricia shook my hand and told me I'd been brave for testifying. "A lot of victims can't face their abusers in court, but you did, and because you did, he's going away for a long time." I thanked her, but I didn't feel brave. I just felt tired. Marcus drove me home, and I slept for 14 hours straight. The months after the trial were about rebuilding. I started working from a co-working space instead of from home because I couldn't stand being alone in an apartment all day anymore. I joined a support group for victims of stalking and surveillance abuse. Hearing other people's stories made me feel less alone. One woman told me she'd found cameras installed by her ex-husband. Another had been stalked by a former roommate. We all understood that specific violation of having your safe space turned into a trap. I also became an advocate. I partnered with a nonprofit organization that raises awareness about technology-facilitated abuse and helps victims navigate the legal system. I give talks at community centers and colleges about how to spot hidden cameras and what to do if you suspect you're being surveilled. I never show my face in these presentations because I value my privacy now more than ever, but my voice reaches people, and that matters. After one presentation, a young woman approached me crying. "I've been feeling crazy for months," she told me. "Things moving in my apartment, my phone acting weird, feeling watched all the time. Everyone told me I was being paranoid, but after hearing you talk, I checked my smoke detector like you said. There was a camera inside it." She grabbed my hands. "You just saved me. Thank you for having the courage to share your story." That's when I knew this nightmare had to mean something. If my experience could help even one person recognize the warning signs and get out before more damage was done, then maybe some good could come from it. Mr. Vaughn and I stayed in touch. We meet for coffee every couple of months, and he always asks how I'm doing with genuine concern. He's installed commercial-grade security systems in all his properties now and does background checks on every prospective tenant. "What happened to you changed how I run my business," he told me. "I never want another tenant to go through what you went through." I asked him once why he'd come to my door that night, instead of just forwarding the email to police. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Because you were my tenant, which meant you were my responsibility. I couldn't live with myself if I'd done nothing and something worse had happened to you. Sometimes the right thing to do is the uncomfortable thing, the scary thing, but you do it anyway." If this story made you think differently about your own safety, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. This needs to reach people everywhere. My relationship with technology changed completely. I deleted all my social media accounts. I cover the cameras on my laptop and phone with tape. I do regular sweeps of my apartment for hidden devices. Some people might call it paranoid, but I call it being careful, being aware, trusting my instincts instead of talking myself out of them. The biggest change has been learning to trust myself again. For months after discovering the cameras, I doubted everything, every feeling, every instinct, every decision. But therapy helped me understand that my instincts had actually been right all along. Those weeks when I felt like something was off, when things seemed out of place, when I had that uncomfortable feeling of being watched, I wasn't being paranoid. I was picking up on real danger. My mistake wasn't being too cautious. It was not being cautious enough. It was talking myself out of investigating further because I was afraid of seeming crazy. Now, when something feels wrong, I investigate. Last month, I was at a coffee shop and noticed a man taking pictures of women without their knowledge. Old me would have looked away and minded my own business. New me walked up to him and said loudly, "Excuse me, but did you just take my picture without asking?" He stammered and denied it, but several other women heard me and started checking their own photos. Turns out he'd been doing it to multiple people. The barista called the police and the man was escorted out. One of the women hugged me afterward. "Thank you for saying something. I saw him doing it, but I was too scared to speak up." That's what I want people to understand. Speaking up isn't easy. Trusting your gut when everyone around you says you're overreacting isn't easy, but it's necessary because predators rely on our silence. They rely on us doubting ourselves, second-guessing our instincts, being too polite or too scared to make a scene. It's been over a year now since that night when Mr. Vaughn knocked on my door at 2 a.m. I still have hard days. I still check for cameras compulsively. I still struggle with feeling safe in my own space. But I'm healing. I'm dating again, carefully and slowly. I'm closer to Marcus than I've been since we were kids. I have a good therapist and a strong support system. And I have a message for anyone watching this who's experienced something similar or who feels like something's wrong in their life right now. Trust yourself. If something feels off, investigate it. Check your smoke detectors, your vents, your electronics. There are apps you can download that detect hidden camera lenses. Use them. If you're leaving a controlling relationship, take precautions. Change all your passwords. Check your devices for tracking software. Be careful what you share on social media about where you live and what your routine is. Most importantly, know that if this happens to you, it's not your fault. Tyler didn't violate my privacy because of anything I did or didn't do. He did it because he's someone who gets satisfaction from controlling and watching others without their consent. That's on him, not on me. And if you're going through this right now, it's on your abuser, not on you. There are people who will help you if you ask. Police departments have specialized units for cybercrimes and stalking. Non-profits exist specifically to support victims of surveillance abuse. Therapists who specialize in trauma can help you process what happened and move forward. You don't have to suffer in silence. I'll end with this. On the first anniversary of finding those cameras, I did something symbolic. I took the smoke detector from my new apartment, a normal one with no cameras inside, and I looked at it for a long time. Then I put it back up and said out loud, "This is just a smoke detector. This apartment is just my apartment, and I am safe here." It felt silly at first, but it also felt powerful. Taking back my space, taking back my sense of safety, refusing to let Tyler's actions control the rest of my life. I'm Vanessa Blake, and I'm a survivor, not a victim, a survivor. And if you're going through something like this right now, you can be a survivor too. Speak up, get help, trust yourself. You deserve to feel safe in your own home. You deserve privacy. You deserve respect. And anyone who violates those things deserves to face consequences. That's my story. That's what happened when my landlord knocked on my door at 2 a.m. and showed me I was being watched. It's not the story I wanted to tell, but it's the one I need to tell. Because somewhere out there, someone is watching this who needs to hear that they're not alone, that what's happening to them is not okay, and that there is a way out. This is for you. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. And you're not alone.